Hi guys, it's Wednesday, the 25th of February, and I wanted to come on and talk about some recent happenings in my life. I posted a couple days ago on my page that God, source, the entity, whatever you want to call it, had really been putting me through it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what that looks like, because spiritual warfare is very real, but spiritual knowing is also extremely real. And last Thursday morning, I had a very interesting dream. I was speaking to someone in a hallway or a stairwell about a baby, and it was very quick. It came on very sudden, and it woke me right up. And I thought, well, that was odd. And I tried to ignore it. I was going to go back to sleep, and Spirit was like, no, you can't do that. We're not sleeping on this. You know, make the call, right? So I sent out a text message, and I was like, I had a dream about a baby and a midwife, and there was a conversation in a stairwell, and immediately got a phone call from a friend who is a midwife, and at a hospital that I had never delivered at before. So they called me. They said, we have a mom who's coming in, needing a lot of support. Mom had given birth to a sleeping baby previously. This was second pregnancy, first child. So I said, what can I do to help? And they said, well, let's see if we can get you paid. There was not an option to do that, unfortunately, at this time, which was fine. But because I had been called, I said, okay, well, I'll be there. Right? Let me know what we're doing. So later that day, I met with Mom, and one of Mom's biggest concerns was that the first time around, she felt that she hadn't really been given a lot of information, and she hadn't really given it a lot of informed consent, and that maybe, things could have gone differently. And one thing that frightened me about that is that she is a Black mom. Now, does that matter? It does, because in the United States, Black women die at a rate of 4-to-1 in childbirth. Black babies die exponentially more often than white children, and we have also seen proof that babies tend to be healthier, and tend to thrive after birth when being cared for by Black providers. And Black providers are very, very hard to come by, friends. So I talked with Mom, and she had done all of the things. She had done the grief counseling. She had worked through a lot of her trauma, but she had also, despite being on birth control, become pregnant very quickly. So this baby was coming right about a year after her first experience. And so we talked about, her sleeping child, and we talked about Dad, because it is the same father, and he was present, which was phenomenal. And we really had this great bonding experience before Mom had started her induction. So fast forward about 8 hours, and I was taking a break. Mom was supposed to be getting some rest. Apparently, Mom had progressed, and no one came to get me. Now, as a doula, I was really heartbroken, because what they did was they placed Mom's epidural. And I hadn't really fully informed her, again, of what was happening. And this is common practice. Not many people know that an epidural is a narcotic. Okay, these are opiate-derived medications. And when I asked the midwife, I said, why did no one come and get me? They said, well, we didn't really have enough hands at the time. Now, they had to call the anesthesiologist. Anesthesiologist had to come in, come up. This was 3:30 in the morning. Okay, there was plenty of time to come and get me. I let it go. We progressed a couple more hours. Now, Mom is having some other symptoms arise, and nurse comes in, offers another opiate medication. So I took the opportunity to point out that this mom was already on a narcotic drug. And so I said to the nurse, I said, so is this the first narcotic she's gotten? And she looked at me like I was stupid. And she said, well, you know, she stumbled through, she's on, you know, the epidural. And so I'm trying not to use drug names. I'm being guided not to, and I don't know why. Maybe that's a HIPAA thing. Maybe because it's identifying, I'm not sure. So mom kind of looked at me, and I was like, you have the choice, you know, to take this or not when she comes back. So the nurse leaves, and I'm talking to mom about, you know, certain drugs can stall labor, especially when, you know, you want to go to sleep. Baby wants to go to sleep because these drugs are designed to knock you down. And so she said, well, you tell her. And I said, I cannot tell her. You have to advocate for yourself. And I don't think I said advocate for yourself. I said, you have to be the one to tell her. And I reiterated that with Dad. And I don't know if Mom took that as, you know, like 2 against 1 or me trying to sway him. I just wanted her to know that as a doula, it is beyond my scope to be able to speak for her medically. But I can inform her of her choices, which is what she had made very clear she wanted to happen, right? That was my role in the room. So the nurse comes back. Mom says, let's wait. Nurse starts explaining that when the baby's born, baby will receive baby medicines. Now, what are baby medicines? Baby medicines are eye goop, right? They are hepatitis B. They are vitamin K. None of these things are mentioned, just baby medicines. This is what we do, and completely reliant upon mom's implicit trust of the medical system. And I was floored. And I went, okay. Okay. So nurse leaves again, and I start just very gently explaining to mom what the things are the baby's going to get. And at this point, mom is triggered. And Dad looks at me and says, we'd like to be alone. So I said, okay, I'm going to take my things. I will be in the waiting room. Now, an hour and a half later, midwife comes and gets me. She says, Mom said to thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. Mom had dismissed me. Now, this is the first time this has ever happened to me. And I tried not to take it personally. She had a lot of things going on. She probably was escalated. She was already, you know, in pain and unsure. Maybe sometimes that implicit trust is what feels safe. But my friends, when we are dosing infants, okay, with 2 or 3 fentanyl-based products before they exit the womb, we have to start questioning why 1 in 26 children is not cognitively functioning at optimum performance, okay? Because there are so many varying levels of this spectrum, right? We know that these drugs cross the placenta. We also know that they cross the blood-brain barrier. We know that infant bodies are new and that these systems, especially the central nervous system, are intricate and they are young. They are in need of, you know, being held and being kept sacred. So when they come out of the womb on all of these medications, and then we double tox them with all of the fillers and adjuvants that are in these shots that we're giving them, their little liver, their little body, their little blood brain has to process all of these things. We have to start asking the tough questions, but we certainly have to start advocating for informed consent. The first time that mom understands what is in an epidural and what it's designed to do should not be in the labor and delivery room. The first time that mom understands what will be injected into their infant as soon as they arrive should be happening long before that baby exits the womb. It is time, my friends. We have to start taking a step forward. And we need to stop villainizing those people that are bringing forth that information. Because when I first arrived at this hospital, my friend was so excited. We have not caught a baby together. It has been 6 years that we have been doing this on both sides of the line. And, they were talking about, oh, it'd be great if you could be here all the time and we could be moving things forward and we could be working together, until I started speaking truth. The truth has been my biggest adversary. And one of the scariest things to me about that is that, and I'm going to go there because the American pediatric journals are posting new findings that, cannabis in pregnancy is not as harmful as we think. And when we're handing out Zofran in pregnancy, escitalopram in pregnancy, GLP-1s in pregnancy, okay, but you say cannabis and people lose their marbles? My hat is off to the government and public education, because what a scam they have pulled on you when your body has a natural endocannabinoid system, when we know that it has medical use, when it came from God the Creator, from the ground, not these man-made toxic chemicals that are melting brains. And we're like, oh my goodness, let's clutch our pearls, the outrage. Friends, we have to get back to some kind of critical thinking. The common sense has to return at some point. I am begging you, because I wake up out here every day and go, what are we doing? What are we doing? Now, here's what I'm not doing, and this is like the disclaimer, right? Is I'm not saying I want you to smoke weed, and I'm not saying I want you to smoke weed in pregnancy, but I am saying that I think it's safer than methadone. I think it's safer than the Subutex. I think it's safer than Suboxone. I think it's safer than Ritalin, especially during pregnancy. Okay? We have to start coming back to truth. We have to start coming back to integrity, and we have to come back to informed consent. So, all right. I love you guys. I hope you're having a good day. That is just a little information as to where I have been and why I have just been really distant, or asking for maybe some spiritual guidance, because when spirit calls me, I have to answer, and sometimes those situations are very, very difficult. Very difficult. All right, I love you guys. I'll see you later. Have a good day.